We're streaming to YouTube. Ready when you are, Mayor McClure.
Thank you. I'll call this work session of Seward City Council to order. This is Tuesday, the 15th of October, and we are continuing budget presentations, and we've got a series tonight. Mr. Clerk, could you just call the roll? I realize people might just want to know who's here.
Yeah, sure thing.
I didn't do that last one. Oh, sorry.
Official.
Oh, well, doesn't have to be, you could just name us. This is more for the radio land, I'm thinking.
Radio land?
Because,
Oh, it's okay. I'll include it with the work session notes.
yeah, we were all there last night for the work session, but I didn't ask.
So, roll call for tonight's work session. Finch?
Here.
Osenga?
Here.
Warner?
Here.
Wells?
Here.
Barnwell is excused. Kreitz?
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to turn it over to the city manager, and she will begin. I'm going to sort of do it like last night, where we'll have presentations and audience questions and input as intermingled, so.
Great, thank you, Madam Mayor. Before we begin tonight, there's two things I'd like to clarify from our discussions last night. The first is in response to some public comment about the proposed increase in bed tax and the boroughs also exploring that idea. And just to clarify, the boroughs' bed tax would be in conjunction with the City of Seward's bed tax. So it would be a maximum, they are proposing a maximum of 12%, but up to 12% for the whole municipality. So if we do move forward with bringing our bed tax up to 8%, the borough would only add 4% and therefore a total of 12%. So it's not in addition to the Kenai Peninsula Borough sales tax, it's in conjunction with. And then I also wanted to clarify, I spoke last night about the PERS study for the TYC positions and mentioned that there was a termination fee associated with that. But after digging into it a little bit today, we realized that there was not any fee incurred from those TYC canceled positions. After the study and everything, they found out that there was not. And usually there is a substantial fee, so I'm going to do some more research about why that was the case. But just wanted to clarify my comments because I did say that there was a fee incurred when usually there is. And so with that, tonight on the docket we have the library, community development, and police and fire. And I think I'm going to go about it in that order. If I can invite Sue to come up and we'll talk through the library and museum for the FY 25 and 26 budget. And that is on page 43 of your packets. And just a reminder, this is for the entirety of the library and the museum operations in that building as well. Great. Sue, you want to hop on in?
Hi, I'm Sue Droker. I'm the director for the Seward Community Library and Museum, and here to answer any questions you might have about our proposed budget and any changes to it. Most of it is as it has been in the past with the basic cost of living and expenses increases. There were a few things that we had added and noted. I believe it's listed in the packet. Just have to find the page mine's on.
One thing to note with this, sorry to interrupt Sue, is that we are currently budgeting to receive the full funds for the state grant library, the PLA grant, even though there has been some back and forth with the state about that. It was initially supposed to come in at significantly lower than the annual $7,000, but with some communication with the state, it seems like that will be fully dispersed at the usual amount of $7,000. So we're going to continue under the operations that will come in at its full amount.
Right, so that would be a 50% matching with the council in our budget. And I am waiting on that letter of confirmation that the DEED is funding that to the full $7,000.
Cool.
Councilmember Wells.
Yes, thank you. Page 43, line item 6001, overtime.
Yeah, so I can speak to that one. Our current process for evaluating overtime is to take this year's overtime from January 1st to June 30th and use the calculation of doubling it, since that would be a full year's worth of overtime. So this year, we've seen about $5,000 worth of overtime for the first half of the year, and so our personnel calculations come to $10,000 total. We don't necessarily know if we would anticipate that, because in hindsight, that might have been from some of the extra things going on at the library this summer and some of the staff shortages in the first half of the year. So as we've been going through this and working with council on it, we've been reevaluating that formula that we were using for overtime throughout.
Yeah, I just have a follow-up to that. Yeah, so I see for our 2024 budget, we budgeted 500. 2023, we're at 4,300, 2022, 1,300, and 2021 at $38. So it does seem kind of high to jump to 10 grand.
I think there is probably a happy median there from $500 and $10,000. And recognizing that our library staff does put in some extra work outside of their hours. So I believe that $5,000 might be more appropriate as we look at it.
I
As
could
well,
work with
as well as
that.
some of the other ones that we talked about last night too.
Yeah.
So the formula we've been using is just doubling what we've done this year. So I think as we've moved through this a little bit, we've recognized that there are certain instances that called for that and certain seasons that call for it. So I think we'll probably end up moving that one down to 5,000 for both years.
I'm fine with that, and I think we've
I'll get you.
changed some of the way salary is done and job classifications. So I think reducing it is very valid.
Councilmember
Thank
Finch.
you, Madam. Page 43, line item 7009, contracted services, you're at 25,000, 2022, 38,000, 2023, and we jumped to 95 and 98,000. What contracted services are you going to be apparently
We have
increasing?
custodial services now. We did not have
That's right.
anyone in
We voted.
custodial services. At the time, we negotiated a contract that is renewable per year, and it automatically renews, and that's where we're at.
So that shows the increase.
That is, yes.
And so that was a contract that was added in 2024.
They do come in every night.
Is there a question? Councilmember Kreitz.
On page 44, 7216, I'm just curious, I saw there's this huge decrease in 2026 for maintenance and repair. I didn't know if there was something related to that.
There's been some repairs made on our heating system that have caused it to not break down as often. I'm calling it how it is. And so we've had far less maintenance having to come in and take care of things. And so we've been able to cut the costs in some of that. Yeah.
But we would still like to maintain that for this upcoming year, since it is one of our newer buildings. We want to make sure we maintain it and keep everything running as high level as possible.
Yeah, we do have a list of things that do need repair, so keeping it status quo covers us.
Okay. Okay, you can go ahead if you have anything else to say, or you're just waiting for a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're good. Give it a couple seconds here.
Yeah.
I'll ask one more question.
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, thank you, thank you. Page 44, line item 7217. I see that we spent, right, yeah, is that 2023? I apologize,
Yeah.
on my piece of paper, the
years,
header didn't
right.
transfer, it didn't freeze to the pane, so I need to look it up. So in 2023, it looks like we spent 17.5, is that correct, on tools and equipment? And then we budgeted, or this year is 3,800 is what we spent so far, and we're budgeting 7,000. I'm just curious what tools and equipment our library is purchasing.
I want to say that part of that might have been the shush boots from last year. I can't speak to anything that was before I was
No, I was talking
Yeah.
about what you're forecasting.
Oh, what we're forecasting. I don't know that I had anything in particular. I think what we did was I looked at the budget from previous year and just went the percentage up. So, but I didn't have a solid grasp of what was the spending in the past. The tools and equipment are usually things that we're using for repairs. Recently, I had to go buy some tools that we didn't have in-house for the heating system downstairs, and it comes out of that budget line as well. I'm not sure that it's anything huge. Ladders, we have a 20-foot ceiling I can't access. I have no means of getting up there, and we have tiles that have stains. I can't tell if they're new, I can't tell if they're old. So some of it's just being able to access different parts of the building. We do have some maintenance and repairs that need to be done with a backup battery in the bathrooms. We're gonna have the drywall taken down to access those, because the maintenance people cannot get their arm into the opening to actually physically get the battery, take it out and replace it. So the whole ceiling has to come down to make that change, and then they're going to fix the lights to be LEDs, but you don't have to do that.
And so
change those batteries consistently, but then you've got the repairs after that to take care of it.
And so a lot of time with our maintenance and repairs, we'll have the small tools and equipment in there to buy the products for it, so that we can spread that cost out. And if we're gonna have it for a longer time, we'll be able to put it in there as well. So like light bulbs, ladders, like she said, paint and things along those lines. Just another way to spread that out and give some flexibility in case we needed to go buy a new vacuum or something as well.
Scaffolding. I've been
Yeah.
through 3 vacuums this year, shampooers for the carpet, that kind of thing, so.
It's
Thank you.
wear and tear. Okay, any other questions on library museum? They're still looking.
Yeah.
And if things come up, you can always direct them to.
You can,
I did,
Yes.
thank you,
go
Madam Mayor.
ahead.
I went through this all this morning, and so I highlighted number 4373 on page 43, under museum admissions. And I noticed how like 2022 was pretty good, 2023 was pretty good, this year we're at 4,300. So I'm just curious what made you determine these numbers for forecasting for museum income?
Some of it was post-COVID and trying to see the trends, taking a look at the ships coming in, and determining how many people come in based off of the ships, how many port of call. So it's a best guess based on the information that we have available at hand.
Yeah, wonder how we get back to those 2022 numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's all I had, thank you.
Great. Well, I think we're good.
awesome, thank you, Sue.
I think
You ready, Daniel? So next, I will invite the Community Development Director, Danny, up, and that is on page 20. So a nice one-pager.
Because we're all frantically turning.
And I have a quick formatting question. Would you prefer to see bigger text and more pages, or keep it all on one page as it currently is? Is there a preference?
This is fine for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Cool, just making sure everybody feels that they're able to read it well. Okay, Danny, you're up.
All right, well, thank you. This being my first year in the position, I haven't gone through a full year cycle, and so for most of the line items, if I didn't notice a significant increase in spending, I just did the kind of recommended percentage increase as we went through. And then there's 3 that I can touch on that were just a little more significant, depending on how you define significant. But software and subscriptions, and then there's a subscriptions and dues, and forgive me, I still kind of get confused in where we put those because they're kind of similarly named, but essentially those funds are for our short-term rental compliance software, and we basically, our contract is up with our current provider, and that was a weird one. They reached out to me when I first started, and then after that I started contacting them, and essentially just ghosted us. Like I think they're having problems with that company, but from talking to our staff, they were always slow to respond, and so we started looking into other options and got some different quotes, and actually we have a meeting tomorrow with finance to kind of determine if we're gonna move forward with one of them. But Granicus, who does the website, had the next best option, and they've had really good customer service, and so that was a decent jump in what that subscription would be, so 35 to the 8,000. And then the Esri subscription, so we use this for our GIS services. The current platform that we use is no longer available, and so we had to kind of did the next best thing, which was an increase in, I believe, like about $1,200-ish or so dollars. And so that's kind of why we added those on a little bit. But the big one is the contracted services, and so that one is, you know, you guys were kind of looking at previous years, and it's kind of been a roller coaster if you look at previous years' budgets for community development, and I think a lot of that has to do with that those are just such unique jobs. Those aren't year after year consistent jobs that are done. A lot of it is like, for example, this year we're working with Stacy Westall at AK Lands, who's doing a lot of surveying based on last year's the municipal lands plan, inventory management plan that the council recommended. There are several city lots that we're just doing some survey work, and so like that's going to be what a lot of the budget for this year is going towards. And also city council directed administration to look into the Forest Acres flooding situation out there for a drainage plan, and so we're working with R&M to put that drainage plan together. And so that's like something that's just like a one-time fee, and so that's why I think historically, we can't speak to it as well, why that's kind of gone up and down. And so the reason that number increased to 300,000 from 200,000 is the comprehensive plan, and that we're kind of in the early stages of that plan update. And so again, when I started, we're told, got direction from, I wish he was here, it was mainly Councilmember Clarnwell, who was like, let's see if we can revamp this plan, and what turned into a revamping has turned into kind of a whole deal. Like we're kind of redo the whole thing essentially. And the Homer is recently redone theirs, and theirs cost about $600,000 to put that plan together. And I think because we're kind of halfway through our current one, we're not looking to like outsource this and charge or spend that much money. And so our office is currently planning on doing all the public engagement pieces in-house, which will save the city significant money. That's going to be our goal for this winter. And after that piece is over, then we need to make a decision if we have the bandwidth to start the drafting process, or if we're going to want to put that out to bid and have someone help us with that. And so that number is just kind of a guesstimate, and it may change. We don't know what we don't know, and we're so early in the process that I would just kind of put a number out there just to say, hey, this is a significant project, that significant money to spend as a town, so we're not looking to spend all of it, trying to do as much as we can in-house, but yeah, that's kind of what we're going to get for that one-time jump in that number.
Okay, questions for Danny? Councilmember West?
Thank you. I just, Danny, which one of the softwares was for the Airbnb? I wanted to make a note.
Granicus.
Granicus.
And that'll be a really useful tool for our finance department as well, because they have collection in it.
Sorry, what I meant was which line item?
SaaS, right? Subscription as a
7022.
service.
7022, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thanks, Dan.
Looks like we're good.
Great.
Good
Awesome.
job. Thank you.
Okay. So next I'm going to invite Police Chief Nickel up. And with this, I need to highlight some laydowns that were submitted to you. So one of the biggest changes that we'll see in our police department budget this year is that the finance department and the police and I wanted to see dispatch taken out separately, just because that's a department in our city, and it's really great to be able to see the expenses that are incurred to that department, especially as we expand some of our software to make their dispatching better. So with that breakout, we had a small error in the Excel spreadsheet, that just put some of the personnel expenses on the wrong line. We promise we're not spending $145,000 a year on air ambulance benefits for the dispatch center. So you'll have a police department updated sheet that was handed out to you and will be put on, and is put online as well for anybody watching at home. And those are the correct updated numbers for the police department, except for dispatch, which I also just handed out to you when we got in here. So I do apologize for the confusion. It does not change any of the final totals. It just puts the correct personnel numbers in the correct lines. And so with that, I will ask you to turn to a page. Yeah. With that, I'll just ask Chief Nickel to hop in.
I have nothing else to add.
Good job, good job.
I don't really have a lot. The biggest thing for me, I would say this budget season is, as she mentioned, breaking dispatch out so we can really get a good look at what that's costing. And beyond that, just continuing to try to focus in on my line items and look for areas where I could make some cuts and, just kind of bring some savings back. And I think, I would say the biggest of my line items is going to be contracted services. And what you're seeing there is the reflection of the Tyler upgrade that we just did. That's going to be the main reason for an overall increase. We're moving up to a much more robust piece of software that we're using. So, and beyond that, what questions do you have?
Question? Go ahead.
Thank you.
I looked to him first.
Thank you, Madam
and
Mayor.
then I'll get over.
And thank you, Chief. Page 1, I just have one question through your entire budget is, I see the income for the DMV. Is the DMV salary come out of line item 6,000?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, that was the only question I had. That was the only one. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember
Thank you,
Finch.
Madam Mayor. Chief, could you let the public know how many officers you have on duty, how many openings you have, and what your future predictions are with your budget of hiring and everything?
So currently, we have 11 patrol positions, so that's from the chief down. Out of those, we have 6 filled. However, we do have one current resignation. One of the other officers is going over to the troopers. So that'll, for the first time, put us below 50% manning. What I've been doing to keep us afloat is using temporary hires. So tapping into, friends, colleagues, so on and so forth. These are typically officers that are already retired from the PERS system. And so they're able to come in and work at a higher rate of pay without any offer of benefits. And these folks are filling in for us. So currently, we have one that's currently working here. He's a retired officer from the department. We just had one leave at the start of October. We have a retired lady trooper that's coming in. She'll be here like around next week. And in fact, she's in Anchorage today. We have another retired trooper and officer from Bethel and so on that we're in the process of trying to bring in. And then we have currently 3 conditional offers out for police officers. So, provided each one of those makes it through the process, which is still a very long and hard process, then we could see an increase in manning from that.
So for one or the other of you, the projected salaries then That includes 11 positions?
So the projected salaries include the 11 positions, and it also includes an increase to the officer's wage.
Right.
Currently, we fall in at about 13th or 14th in similar locations, especially if you compare us to other locations on the Kenai Peninsula. We pay significantly less. So one of the big motivations behind this wage study is to look at those public safety positions and how we stack up against them and pay our employees accordingly so that we can retain good staff, but also hire good staff in these positions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In line item 7308, police recruitment, there's not anything in there. I mean,
Oh, is this?
I'd like to see us spend money on recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, we can move some funds into there as well.
I thought that was the chief's way of saving money.
Well,
That's why I didn't
it's really gonna
question it.
save money because of the overtime
Yeah,
costs.
not gonna-
Yeah.
It's cheaper to advertise.
Great, good point, thank you.
Was that line created for?
Was created for the incentive,
Oh,
yes.
so we were going to create an incentive, a hiring incentive for our police officers, so that is what that line was created for. But after some internal discussions, we found that it would be more useful to spend our funds on salaries and to have those salaries be commensurate with what the rest of the area is paying and what officers should be made. So we created that line in anticipation of using that for recruitment bonuses. And that can be something we revisit, but we wanted to put our funds more towards salaries and have those be
Okay, you had
better.
another question.
Yeah, and I fully agree with
Yeah.
that, but we should have some money put aside for recruitment across the state.
Yeah.
If we could.
Councilmember Kretz.
The only question I had was, I know that that's not part of this budget now that the jail is closed, but did we incur any PERS penalties from those positions that were removed?
So we have not incurred any PERS penalties, but we have not done the PERS termination study yet. We're still in talks with the state of hopefully finding a way to move forward without canceling any positions. So I don't want to do a termination study until we find out all options available. And we have some time to do that, so we're still working and navigating whether or not those positions can be transferred or repurposed before we have to go forth with that PERS termination study.
Yeah, yeah, from the audience, Tony, go ahead.
However, you still are paying into PERS if those positions are waiting around, correct?
Correct, yes. So then, when we do get to that point, the PERS penalty would be less if it does get to that point.
Other questions on? Okay, what else you got? That's it?
I
That's
don't
the whole
really have-
thing?
Yeah.
I'm planning on speaking more to this on the 22nd, so I'll have something more prepared there where I'd like to talk about, recruitment, retention, and just kind of dig into the meat of the importance of the wages and stuff. So I plan to do that at that time.
Yeah, so we have that on the 22nd docket for the wage study as well, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else? Okay, I guess we're good to go.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alan. Last but not least. And so the fire department budget begins on page 27 of your packet. Yeah, it's gonna go well. Oh, that,
Oh,
60 info.
We got it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me make sure I'm on all the right pages.
There. I have a lot, guys. 26, okay. Thanks for having me. Kind of a big ask this year. Kind of ebb and flow is what it seems like in the fire department. We're good one year, we get everything fixed, and then the next year, everything breaks, or we find loopholes, or we find gaps in our response abilities. And so then we come to you and ask, let's fill those gaps. So we're kind of on our downward trend this year, and then 25, we are kind of asking for kind of a big lift, and then kind of back down again on 26. We've had a lot more recent activity, both on Mount Marathon and out in the bay, fishermen, snaggers, we had one fatality. Really opened our eyes into the lacks of some of the equipment that we desperately need that we don't have. And so, encouraged by city administration, we did include that in some of this budget, namely a side-by-side that would be both access to the mountain and the flatlands, wetlands, and putting a stretcher attachment in the back. As it stands right now, we do have a Jeep, which is known as the Jeep Trail, but it's very inadequate for actually bringing a patient. Sorry, just a second. My ears, kind of hard to.
There's a 6 p.m. alert that goes off on his phone, and it also goes into his ears.
So if we had someone say you broke your leg, we literally take the back seat out of the Jeep, we slide you in the back, we get a ratchet strap, and we try to strap you in there and bring you down the mountain. So it's woefully inadequate for any kind of response up on the mountain. So just something that's going to be more maneuverable, be able to get out onto the flats, get out there quicker, deploy some water rescue people, I think is going to make a huge difference. We also put in the budget, if we're going to have it, we might as well throw a small plow on it so we can help with the sidewalks. I know Parks and Rec does all they can just to keep up around here, so there's no reason we can't help them out and get some of these sidewalks around downtown plowed as well. So that's kind of the biggest lift on equipment. The second biggest lift on equipment would be some of that water rescue gear. It's extremely expensive. So this is accounting for 6 sets of dry suits. I've already purchased the PFDs and helmets and the related gear, but this would be the dry suits, gloves, and booties. And so they run about close to $3 grand a piece to outfit somebody. So that's where that safety equipment kind of jumped up on there. You'll also see a little bit of a jump in contracted services. That is because the fire department handles the sidewalk snow contract. And so there's close to $40,000 in the budget for us to pay Metco to go clear sidewalks if the business owners don't do it. And then the idea is finance charges the customer, and then we put the money back into that account. So I think we did pretty good this year. I think we collected pretty much everything, is that right? So we were able to put that back. So that's the big contracted services. We did go up a little bit also because we'll have a one-time $1,000 charge to hook up our report management system into the new CAD system that's coming. So that's why it's up on 25 and down on 26. And then the really big ask, personnel and staffing. And I've said this a bunch, across the nation, volunteerism, whether it's from Red Cross to EMS to fire to even the hospital candy stripers, it's down and nobody wants to volunteer. We have a great group of volunteers right now, very young and inexperienced, and they're not necessarily wanting to get up at 2 a.m. to go kick grandma off the floor. And you're looking at who's having to do that at 2 a.m. We got 2 exempt employees, myself and the deputy chief, and we're going out, and 75% of the time it's just us by ourselves. I don't blame them. I try to get you to get up and go with me sometimes, and she's just like, I don't want to go back to sleep. And I feel the same way, but having someone at the station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that I know they know how to pump that truck, they can drive a 44,000-pound piece of equipment safely, they know how to operate mechanically the pumps, they can get to a fire, they can get to a medical call, start CPR, start water suppression, whatever the case may be, is invaluable, and it's completely life-saving to have someone there within 4 to 6 minutes versus 10 to 12, 12 to 14 minutes. That really does make a difference. You saw in my presentation about how fast fire spreads, getting some units on the scene quickly to start laying some hose on the ground. Is one person on an engine enough? Absolutely not. But at least I can know when I'm at home, I don't have to, right now, I've got all these people on vacation and hunting, and you're going through your mind every night going, is going to respond and drive that truck? Do I have someone to respond? And 9 times out of 10, it's a no. So I would really like to have 2 additional positions that would create a 24/48 work crew. That means there would be someone staying at that station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The trucks would be responding, they would provide maintenance, they would be checking apparatus. That's another thing we struggle with is we're all tasked with 100 hats and things get missed, and when someone's not at the station and the truck's gonna get checked, the next thing you know, you pull a piece of equipment off and the battery's dead. Is that a fuel? Something's not working because it just wasn't routinely checked. So having someone there, and that's their responsibility, maintaining that station, maintaining the apparatus. We got lucky that we walked in on a weekend and caught a major water leak as it was happening. That would have completely, it did flood the station, but it would have done so much more damage if we just happened to not accidentally go by there on a Saturday. So having someone there in that old station to make sure it doesn't catch fire, it doesn't flood, we've got it Band-Aided as long as we can, it is another reason. So it's a big ask, I get it. If you dial 911 and you say someone's coming into my house, you're going to get a police officer probably within 4 to 6 minutes, if not faster. When you have a fire in your house, your significant loved ones, that's chest pain, going to cardiac arrest. You dial 911, I can't guarantee, other than myself and the deputy chief, are coming by ourselves with a volunteer ambulance. So just hope that the community will support the fact that it's 2024, volunteers have their role. We'll never be without volunteers. I love them, they're great. You have to have especially something in your heart to want to do that as a volunteer, run into a burning building for no reason. Probably a little bit of something wrong upstairs, but you got to get it. They've got a huge heart, and it is time to put somebody in that station 24 hours a day. So I know she initially put 1 firefighter, and if you'll look into the 1221 budget, I did put on top of the regular stipends that they get. These guys get $25 a call. That's it. Barely pays for their gas. And so I did put an extra $36,500. If for some reason council was adamant that we can only put 1 position at a time, that money was going to try to get a volunteer to stay at the station at night for $100 a night. But like I told the city manager, I've polled everybody, and they're all like, I might do 1 night a month, 2 nights a month, but that's it. I got to be with my wife, the new kid. I got to be at work the next day, and so that's, to me, not realistic. We could try it. I know it's a failed attempt before I even try it. So I'm coming and you asking for the extra 2 positions. I obviously will take whatever I can do. It's better than nothing.
And just to clarify, this isn't necessarily a disagreement between the fire chief and I. It was also just an opportunity to have the conversation about it. I wanted to present both the stipend and 1 firefighter so that we knew the options that were available to us, and have council discuss about what they would like to see in that as well. So Clinton and I are not fighting in the office over this every afternoon.
Trying to show the 2 options.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have, relative to that, the proposed, well, let's just pick 2025 budget salaries, who all does that include?
So in 1220, salaries is myself, the deputy chief, 50% of the admin assistant, and we have 1 firefighter that works 4 10 hours a day.
Okay.
It's 4 positions.
So this doesn't include the 2 positions? Or
Just
any-
1.
Oh, so no, this also includes an additional firefighter
additional
position.
firefighter.
1 additional,
Okay.
yeah.
The 2025 does?
2025 and 2026
Right.
are budgeted for 1 additional
Okay.
firefighter and the additional stipends.
Okay, and this stipend. All right.
In the budget 1220, which is fire. Clinton also has volunteer fire, and then the building as well is under his. So he has
Oh,
an emergency services, so he has other employees, but under the fire services on that budget, it's adding 1 additional firefighter currently.
and you've already figured that into the balance. Okay. Councilmember.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So let me see if I got this right. You want to, and I understand that, but you budgeted for 1 and increase the stipend to see if the volunteers would spend a night I like that idea. That's a good test run to see, you know, if,
I did this early on before I polled them, and we left it like that, but like I said, I don't blame them. I don't wanna not be in my own bed at night, but.
but it
I don't know
gives,
that-
you know, it gives them a taste of what the firefighter positions are, where it might grow that interest of the next budget. Hey, let's add another one on.
And another option, because like I said, I know it won't be every night, the other option could possibly be if you added to, cut that stipend in half, because I know I don't need that much, cut it in half, and then let's just see where we go, and if we use it, we use it, if we don't, it goes back into the pot, and
Yeah, go ahead.
How many volunteers do you have right now?
on the books, right at 25. Who's able to drive, probably 6.
Do you, I believe this would increase the volunteers, doing that stipend like that. I would hope.
You can try it out.
And we increased the run stipends, and we didn't really see, no one's volunteering to do it for the money. This is just to try to give them a little extra something for
Compensation.
compensation, right, for being there, but they're definitely there not for the compensation, they're there to be volunteers, so trying to use that as a recruitment, it's just never worked in the past. Throwing money at a volunteer, it's not what they're there for, and they, while they're not gonna turn it down, it's not what their heart's for, so we struggle with that. We, in the budget, we've always had a kind of a LoSAP, Mental Service Appreciation Program, so we have a small mini 401k set up for them through the volunteers, thinking that would help with recruitment, and it hasn't. People still come and go. I gain 2, I lose 1, gain 3, lose 2. It's just a vicious cycle of the town and of volunteerism in general. And that's why we have the young and inexperienced, is because of the turnover. And once I get someone trained, and I trust you driving the pump, I can't find housing, or I got a summer job, or I got a winter job, or I'm going to go down south and take care of my mom, my dad, my grandma. And so we're in that constant struggle. Like any other department up here is trying to keep staff, and you're not a full-time employee, keeping staff's even harder.
Okay. Tony, you had a question.
Yeah, this is a finance question. If a salary position is proposed, does that also include increases in the workers' compensation and the health insurance line items as well?
Yes, so when a position is proposed, we have a formula that goes through and then does it for every other personnel impacted thing there.
The workers' compensation went up around 30% this year.
Do you know the number of what the benefits, like, I know when we did wage study before, you look at what, when you add a position, there's a flat kind of, this is what you pay, it's around like $40,000, what it costs to add another position in the benefits and the.
So for just an off the top of my head, usual calculation, I usually do 1.5 times the salary for the total cost of a position. So if for easy numbers, if a firefighter comes in at 50,000, which wouldn't be the salary, then total compensation wise, or total budget impact would be about 75,000.
I just want to clarify what the benefits, what is the base pay? I mean, not the base pay, but like the adding a position costs, health insurance,
Yep.
and health insurance and workers' compensation. What is that? What is that cost there? Just at any position?
So it's about 1.5, it's a half of the salary. So you'll take the salary of $50,000, multiply it by 1.5, so about half of what the salary is for benefits. So if you do the starting wage of a firefighter that comes out, I'm just really vaguely estimating here, at like about 65, so total cost would be about $100,000 a year. Thank you.
Questions up here? I'm still perusing. Let's see. Are you going to be covering the building inspector and all that? Okay. don't see any questions. You want to just continue with what you got? They'll probably arise.
So that's kind of a mix of 1220 and 1222. Were you looking at both of those, or then stop at 1221? 1221, really the big lift was a little bit of the safety equipment and then that side by side.
Yeah. And emergency preparedness seems to be
Yep, so
holding its own.
Yep, so 1222, technically it's the city manager's budget that we kind of help manage for that department. This is your EOC, your Emergency Operations Center equipment and supplies. It pays for the EOC sat phone. We pay the tsunami siren heating fuel. Nixle, which the police and the clerk use to send out emergency alert, that comes out of there. We pay for all of the AED supplies for all the departments in the city, to include batteries and pads. It's very expensive. And then we do have a small travel and education budget that's available for any city employee that's going for emergency management training.
And that's all in that very small amount of money, 25 to, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Try to make the best of it. So that was 1222. 1223, we actually have a line item or a budget for SBAC. We provide the $20,000 that you see under special services. That's the CPB funds that they get a check for every year. We do pay all of their insurance for malpractice, vehicle insurance, and then we have a little small amount for radio batteries, and then I started giving them a few years ago $10,000 into really, we call it the volunteer fireman stipend, but a stipend account as well that they can, however they see fit. We basically cut them a check and they can pay $10 a call and give them a $100 gift check and do what they want. But it's an incentive program for them.
Okay.
Are we on, 1223?
Yes.
I just have a quick question if I may, Madam.
Yeah.
Line item 7806 is the stipend. And I'm just curious how in 2022 we had 8,800. It just seems strange to have exact numbers here.
So as Clinton was explaining, this is just a check that we write to the Seward Volunteer
Oh, that's
Ambulance
right.
Corps each year. So we just give it to them, yeah.
Missed it, I apologize.
I like round numbers.
Yeah, I missed that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then brings us to 1250. 1250 is the building department, which also shares what I'm calling community risk division. So our fire marshal also falls under this for fire life safety inspections. He does our investigations. So that salary also falls under that. I do want to point out on in the revenue side that permits, what do we have? Permits and inspections,
4,100.
Okay.
Yeah.
41,000, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
41,000.
4,100.
Depends on where you
So
put the
line item
column.
4,100 and 4,107.
Yeah.
So it should equal about 44,500. We did not include the railroad terminal in this projection, just because they haven't officially filed a permit yet.
Oh.
That'll be over $150,000 just for the permit inspection,
For one time.
a one-time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there will be,
Sweet.
just so you know, when you see that jump in the budget next year, is because of that one time,
Yeah.
large.
It will be adjusted during the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, really, I don't think anything should stand out. What I did do was I did move, because this seemed kind of silly, I moved some of the stuff like fuel for the vehicles. I moved that into the fire account. Gas and lube, I moved some of the operating supplies. I just moved some of the stuff that seemed redundant into the fire account, just to make coding simpler, make finance, make my admin assistant's job just a little easier, because they're getting in any of the fire trucks that we can drive. It's just their trucks, and they're driving it, so.
Questions?
I would like to note that's also another, another department or, that the overtime, we'll probably go back in and adjust that accordingly, because it was just doubled based off of the current year, so we'll go in and adjust that, because the, building did have a lot of overtime with some of the big projects going on in town, but we want to go back in and smooth that over.
Some of that overtime, if without the 2 firefighters, so right now, the fire marshal's just gotten finally schooled up on driving, pumping, so he's now taking call. And so some of that overtime is to pay him to relieve the deputy and I's on-call time. So there is some built-in overtime with having him, you have to pay them to be on call and then a 2-hour minimum call back. So again, we're paying somebody 2 hours of overtime to come in and help grandma off the floor, but for a mental and mental freedom that we can go to bed at night, at least 1 or 2 nights a week without being on call, I think that's worth it. So again, some of that overtime will be reduced with the additional positions. Same thing on 12/20 overtime.
Yeah.
Okay. Further questions? I think we're good.
Wonderful. So that is our general fund. By the end of this week, and just a reminder, Friday is a holiday, it's Alaska Day, so we will not be in the office on Friday. But by the end of this week, we'll have the enterprise funds out for you for next week. And so if you look at the schedule for next Monday and Tuesday, we have, on Monday night, we're going to do the motor pool, hospital, and water and sewer. And then on Tuesday, we'll do the electric department and our wage study. And so these are enterprise funds, so the revenue is self-generated within those funds. So we'll be able to look at all of those next week. We'll also take into consideration some of the notes and edits that we found over the past 2 nights and put those in. But my question to you is, any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns as we do the general fund?
Oh, yeah, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam. It'd be nice to get financials from the hospital that we've been trying to get for how long now, and they're postponing it or procrastinating or whatever you want to call it.
Tomorrow.
Thursday.
Yeah, so we'll be meeting with them on Thursday and hopefully be able to bring some firm numbers with us for that meeting on Monday.
I have a question. This includes 1 new firefighter.
Yes.
But we would still have to have an ordinance?
We would need to do a resolution.
Resolution for that.
Yep.
Separately.
Yes.
Correct. Creating a position would require a
Before-
resolution.
But that could happen after the budget is?
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
We'd probably time them, if we move forward and the council seems to be generally into the idea, I would probably do it a little bit more in tandem, just so we don't have a huge lapse in between that, budgeting for it and then approving it. But yeah, we could do it after the fact as well.
Is there any ability for the positions that you're already paying now into PERS for the 5 of getting those transferred over to firefighter position, or?
So for PERS positions, you can't change more than 50% of the duties for positions. And so it's actually something that we ran into with the Teen Youth Center is, at the time, council wanted to look at repurposing those positions into maintenance positions, but they're classified under childcare. So we weren't able to reclassify them into another position because that would take up more than 50% of our duties. And then with jail, the classification of that is jail. And so it's very limiting, and so being able to manipulate that to be a firefighter position would most likely, would not fly with the PERS auditors. Because yes, it's all in the realm of public safety, but 2 very different auspices of it, and the classifications are 2 different classifications. So definitely something we've thought about and tried to massage that, but recognizing that 50% is not doable with those positions.
Okay. Other questions? It's so early, we could
I
stay a
know.
long time. Okay, did you have anything else at all? Okay.
No.
Well, then I will adjourn us at 6:24. Thank you very much.